And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Ryan Metzler.
Hey everyone, Ryan Metzler here, and today we're going to be taking a look at an upcoming release from Minion Games, and that's going to be The Kingdom of Solomon, which is a game for 2 to 4 players that'll play in about 60 to 90 minutes, and is a worker placement game by the designer who did Revolution. Basically, players are going to be taking turns putting workers onto the board. They're then going to resolve the actions that they've done by putting their workers onto the board, and then they'll be able to build different things in order to earn victory points and or special positions in the game. So now that I've given you a brief overview, why don't we take a look at what comes inside the box, how the game plays, and then I'll give you what my thoughts are on it. So here you can see all of the stuff included with the Kingdom of Solomon. You have a board, you have some wooden cubes representing goods, some sticks which represent roads, a couple decks of cards, some tokens, and then some player pieces. And on this board you're going to see several different things. The main area here is going to be an area depicting the land that you're going to be trying to get resources from, and it's divided into several areas. Additionally, you can see some building cards out here on the left-hand side, and you can see some action spaces along the right-hand side of the board. There's a nice counter along the outside of the board to keep track of your victory points, a turn order counter, and then a market for selling goods to, and a temple that you can build. The game of Kingdom of Solomon is going to take place over several rounds, and each round is going to be divided into phases. There are 4 phases in each round, and those phases are action placement, action resolving, market visiting, and building, and you're going to do those in order each turn. The player who's first in turn order is going to place one of their guys onto the board in an action space in order to take that action during the resolution phase. And the different types of action phases are getting resources by placing onto an area, which could be, for example, Edom here, which gets you 1 orange resource, or you could place onto one of the action spaces on the right-hand side of the board, which could get you more cards or more victory points, or allow you to steal resources from opponents. Or you could place onto one of the buildings that you built, and you won't have any of these in the first round of the game, but later in the game you'll be able to build them, and they'll give you special actions. For example, the Vintner here allows you to draw a fortune card, which are going to give you benefits at one point in the game when you decide to play them. So the first player would place, and then the next player would place in turn order, until one player decided they wanted to pass. And what they could do then is place all of their remaining pawns onto one of these special bonus action spots. So if they wanted to pass, they could say, for example, place all of the remaining pawns on the altar, which would give them, first thing, 3 times their current turn order and victory points. So for example, this would be 3 when they resolve the action, and they would also get to advance in the turn order, which wouldn't work for this player because they're already first, but if they were second, they could move up to first place. After the placement phase, you're going to go through and you're going to resolve all of your actions. So for example, if you had placed on this space here, you would get 2 green goods, and you would take them into your play area. And you would go through and resolve all of the actions on the board in any order that you wanted to. After you're done resolving actions, you're going to move on to the market phase, and you'll see this area down here, and that's going to be the market, which allows you to buy or sell goods. And you're going to start at 10 victory points. And you can sell goods in order to get more victory points. So if I had an extra orange that I didn't want, I could sell it to the market and get 6 victory points, moving up 6 spaces. If I wanted to buy a resource that was currently on the market, I could pay the victory points and take it and put it in my area, losing 6 victory points to get that orange resource. This phase is done in reverse player order, the player going last having the option to sell or buy first, whereas the first player will go last. After the market phase, you're going to move to the building phase, and you're going to be trying to build buildings, roads, and the temple in order to get victory points and or tokens. You can build buildings by paying the cost on the building card. You can see the cost is in the lower right-hand corner. For example, a gold, a stone, 2 wood, and 2 food in order to build the farmer here, which will give you the option to use the action to get 3 food when it came around to your turn. When you build most buildings, you get to place a building marker out onto the board, taking control of a region. For example, I could build an Edom here, which would give me, and only me, the ability to play in that area on my turn, unless you have a special ability which allows you to do otherwise. There are 4 buildings available each turn, and then you can also build roads. Building roads will allow you to connect areas, and it's going to cost 2 wood and a food to build a road, but when you build a road, you build it between an area that you have a house in, or a building in, and another area. And the next time you place on that area, or the attached area, you're going to get the resources from both regions. So for example here, I would get both an orange and a brown for placing here because they're connected by the road. Finally, you can build parts of the temple, and that's going to be these little wooden blocks that you can add to the temple, and you must build from the bottom up, first building the foundation, then the structure, and then at the top you can build the columns. Building these is going to cost different resources. The foundation will cost a stone and any other resource, and you can either take 5 victory points advancing on the victory point track, or you may take one of these tokens for the High Priest. Whoever has the most of these tokens will have control of the High Priest and have a special ability both during the game and earn extra victory points at the end of the game. The special ability allows you to place on somebody else's region once per turn, and at the end of the game, if you control the High Priest, you'll get 20 victory points. The game is going to end when players have built either all 11 of the building spots on the board, having filled them with their buildings. One player has used all 5 of their building tokens by building buildings onto the board, or the temple has been completed with all of the different levels having been filled in. At this point, whoever has the High Priest is going to get their additional 20 victory points, and players are going to get any victory points they have from cards that are in their hand in order to bump up their score for the end of the game. After all of this has been done, the player with the most victory points is going to win. So that's the Kingdom of Solomon. A pretty solid Euro game, I have to say, from Minion Games. Not very heavy, a pretty light game, but with a decent enough structure and decent enough options to make it interesting. It's a good idea to try and build your little region together with rows to try and get more resources, but another player could simply play in one of the areas you don't control, getting extra resources for themselves as well. So you kind of have to balance keeping an area large, but not too large to make it attractive to other people, with expanding out and getting multiple areas that are good. It's also imperative that you pay attention to the bonus abilities, knowing the right time to pass so that you don't kind of get blocked out and get hurt by the special abilities. You have to pay attention to what other players are doing, and try and keep in turn order the right spot so that you don't lose a building that you'd like to build to somebody else who manages to eke in ahead of you. So all in all, a great game from Minion Games, one that I would suggest lighter Euro gamers checking out, and one that I think makes a pretty good addition to a Eurogamer collection.
Thanks for joining us today. For more written, audio, and video reviews, as well as the #1 board game podcast, check out the website at www.thedicetower.com. Until then, this is Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.